What's up guys, Shawnthebro here, and today we're going to be going over a pretty fun episode. We're going to be going over character select with characters that actually spawn in the scene and do like a little animation. So for my mannequin, I have him walking permanently because I don't have a different animation with an attack for him. And then for the mutant, he does his little punch and then comes into the scene. Now, of course, this isn't fully polished, but this will be able to get you the knowledge of how to spawn in your characters, play an animation, either stop them or keep them looping once the animation is finished. And you can see that I can switch characters as much as I want here. It deletes the old character, just like this, so I don't continuously have them popping up or like going over top of each other. I can press this as many times as I want, and it should work every time. So there you go. We're going to be covering that today. So let's go ahead and go into our main menu level. Our main menu level is a bit weird because it's just a black screen right now, and I have some stuff that I need to clean up. But I want to open this because this got closed by mistake. Okay. Now, in our main menu level, there's some things you'll need if you want to be able to see. I went ahead and copied the sky sphere blueprint, the directional light, and that's it. That's all you need. I copied these two things from any one of my other levels and brought them in. Okay, so I brought them over just so I could see, because otherwise you're going to have a black screen and that's not going to be all that enjoyable. But what's going on off screen is I have some actors here that I've set up just so that I can actually look at them and see what animations they do. They're not going to be necessary for the character select screen because we're going to spawn them in place. So these guys aren't required. I'll go over how you can place them into your scene and see what they're doing, but they're not actually required. What we are going to make today, I believe it's actually in, I made a folder called Widget Actors in my widgets, and I have something called a CS location marker, which is my character select location marker, and then I have a folder in there, CS characters, which are these two guys. Okay. So, what we're doing is when we can see the area in the main menu, I'm setting up 2 points that I want to spawn the characters at. Now, in the character select screen, we're going to have to know what our selection is, our confirmed selection. That way we know what character to spawn. And we're going to need to have an actor to spawn them and perform the functionality we want. So go ahead and make an actor, first of all. Let's get our location marker. This is just a blueprint class and an actor. Let's make a blueprint class, make an actor, and call it character select location marker, or whatever you want. These are where they're going to spawn in the scene, because the way you get this effect is we actually spawn these actors and have them play an animation. This isn't done on a widget. This is done in the world. The widget is just overlaying where the camera is in the world. Now, you don't have to do any functionality in here, like literally none. The only thing you probably should do is give it a static mesh so you can visualize it in the world, but you don't even have to do that. It's not going to be seen. I'm pretty sure I've hidden it in game. Now, it wasn't in view of the camera anyway, but just in case, for whatever reason it became in view, we wouldn't be able to see it. So it doesn't matter much, but I gave it a chamfer, which is just basically a cube with rounded edges. I use that as the spot so I know kind of where the players are going to spawn on top of it. Okay. Now, that's all well and good, but we also need to make actors that can perform the functionality we want for actually spawning these guys, right? So I made something called a base CS actor, so base character select actor. Now, he is also just an actor, so you can go to blueprint class and make an actor and call it base CS actor. Now, you don't have to make this the mannequin. You can make it whatever your base character is. All we're going to do, we're not doing any logic again in the blueprint. We're just going to go to the viewport. We're going to add a new component and add a skeletal mesh right here. In my skeletal mesh, I go ahead and I rotate him the way I want, because he might not be rotated the direction you want when you see him spawn in the scene. So make sure he's rotated to how you like it. Then in animation, usually we use animation BP here, use animation blueprint. Switch just to use animation asset, and you can make them play a specific animation as opposed to following blueprint logic. You could do a small animation blueprint if you wanted to perform a few animations, or like perform different animations depending if it's player 1 or 2 or something. But honestly, you can just use an animation asset. Give him an animation to play. Again, I don't have any attacking animations for the mannequin. That's the reason I mainly use the mutant. I could get some, but either way, just add an animation you want. For now, it doesn't matter what the animation is. If you have attacking animations, go for it. For the walking, I decided to loop him, because otherwise you can make him not loop, and I'll just sit there, which is fine. I actually prefer the looping if he was going to be doing something not attacking, because walking forever is pretty menacing. Make sure playing is checked, and this stuff is fine. Make sure you set the skeletal mesh. I should have said this first, but if you use animation asset and you can't find any animations, your skeletal mesh hasn't been set. So make sure you set it to whatever you want. I know SK mannequin is the one that I want for my mannequin. There's nothing else you have to do here. Just showing you what my options are if you wanted to actually look at it. But they're all the defaults. And now you're good to go. That's all you have to do for base character select actor. Now we need to set up mutant character select actor. Funnily enough, we don't have to do anything extra in him either. And he's even easier, because what we're going to do is make a new class now, another blueprint class. Last one, I promise. Last one for now, that is. Go, don't select actor this time. Search for your base CS actor and use this as your parent. This will automatically get you the skeletal mesh and everything, so when you click on the mutant CS actor, all you have to do is click on the skeletal mesh. Again, feel free to change his rotation size, any of that. I can't expand this for some reason. Use animation asset. Change the skeletal mesh to the mesh of the mutant. It doesn't have to be like I have rifle punch. That's just because I happen to bring over a rifle punch skeleton as opposed to using the mutants. Just use the skeleton you use for the mutant and then grab an animation that works for it. For example, I liked the way X rifle punch looked, but you can use any animation. I do have it set to looping, but I don't want it to actually loop on the mutant. I want him to stop. Whoops. I want him to stop like that when he is done. So make sure it's not looping if you don't want it to continuously play. Still set it to playing, and you're good to go. And you can do this for all your characters that you have. So at this point, we've actually made everything we need to make. Just place them into the scene. You just need to place the location markers in the scene. You can literally just drag them like this, and you're good to go. I had it renamed before. So they are called CS Cinematic Location and CS Cinematic Location 2. The name doesn't matter, but when you see these in the World Outliner here, just know that it's because they had a different name previously. But just bring them into the scene and bring them close to the camera. The coordinates really aren't important, but I'll give them to you in case you want to go for the exact look I have. But I'll give them all to you. It's going to depend on your sizing and things like that. So here's my sizes for, well, here's all my data for the camera. I don't know why I can't pull these out today. There you go. Here's all my data. Feel free to copy it if you want. Then here are my cubes data. This is for player 1, the player 1 location marker. And this is for player 2. You can see I've also rotated this one on the Z-axis because I want him to face a different way. You don't have to do that. We could flip him like we do in the game, but I figured it might look nice to be able to have them facing different directions like that. Gives it a little bit of character. Okay, so like I said, the rest of the logic we have to do is in the character select screen. Now the character select screen, I've gotten rid of all the other functions that we were working on last time, so there's not a lot of clutter in here. We'll only be covering these functions. If you do want to catch up on the character select screen and what we've worked on, then I can leave a link to the iCard of the very first character select screen episode. I think there have been 3 so far, and this is basically the 4th of the character select screen. But this is kind of different since this is a specialty episode where we're bringing it into the 3D world. But anyway, I'll leave an iCard, and I'll also leave an iCard to the first episode of this series if you think you'd like to catch up on the whole series. We're 41 episodes in at this point, so we are quite far along. Alright. So to get started in here, what we want to do is in our event construct, we're setting up all these listen for input actions so we can use multiplayer controls in the menu, and we were moving our selection borders to the defaults for player 1 and 2. Now what we want to do is create two variables, and I'm calling them location marker P1, location marker P2, and I'm also going to make something called character widget reference P1 and P2. These aren't, they're not named as well as they could be. I'll cover them later. We're going to focus on this for now. So at the end of your construct, in your character select screen, we're going to get all actors of class and get CS location marker. Now, remember, that's this guy, the chamfer that gets placed into the scene that the camera uses to spawn the players and look at them. Okay. We're going to get all actors of class, and we're going to check for some component tags. That way we can actually determine if it's player 1 or player 2 and tag them accordingly, and then we'll keep references to them. So, player 1 and player 2, that's how they're divided up, but the game doesn't know that. The way I've set this up so that it'll work is if you click on the location marker you want, then go under Add Component and look at the default scene route option. If you click on that, you'll see tags and component tags. You'll have 0 to start with. You can go ahead and hit the plus to add one and call it whatever you want. So I called this one P1. Of course, the other one then, if I go to default scene route, add my component tag, is P2. So we're going to be searching for those in the character select screen. So, get all actors of class. We're going to pull off this and do for each loop. You can do for each loop with break if you want. That's what I've done. It's definitely not necessary. I've simply done it just in case I wanted to break out at any point. You can tell I didn't use it. Drag off the element we're currently on. Grab the default scene route. That's what we were just doing, right? Get the default scene route. We're going to get our list of component tags. Nope, not component has tag. We want to get component tags. There we go. Okay. Then we want to just grab the first one because we're grabbing the first tag. You can grab a reference. So we should only have one component tag in here, P1 or P2. Okay. So we're grabbing the first one and we're going to do an equals to check if the name is equal to P1. Now, if you only have 2 in here like I do, if it's equal to P1, I'm going to delete this now since you can see it above. If this is equal to P1, so the component tag found is P1, then we know that's location marker 1. If it's not equal to P1, then we know it's P2, so we can set location marker P2. If for whatever reason you need more than 2, obviously just keep the chain going, and you don't have to, if it's false on P1, instantly set location marker 2. You could go ahead and make sure you check and see if it's actually player 2. But since I know I'm only using 2, I can go ahead and just check if it's P1. If it is, set location marker 1, else set location marker 2. Since we're looping through all of them and there's 2, one should be true, one should be false. Both of these should get filled out by the time construct is done. Okay, once that's done, we need to go into our confirm selection function. Alright, so in our confirm selection function, we're not changing much about what's going on in here, but we are going to be calling another function to actually determine how we're going to spawn the characters. We only want to do that if they're not already in place, right? So if they're already there, we don't want to keep putting them over top of each other, so we're going to have to clean them up. The other change we've made here is we have actually done a branch for the confirm selection to determine if the select screen is up. We're going to cover this last because this is just solving a bug that came up while I was making this, and it's something I wanted to avoid. So don't worry about the is stage select screen up boolean yet, or this branch. If you've been following the series, you should go from confirm selection to the switch on int, and then set these selections accordingly. What we want to do now is we want to get the character widget reference. So I was talking to you about these that I made earlier that I said they're a little weird. What these guys are, these are the references to the actors, the base CS actor. So they're just references to this, and since the Mutant CS actor is a child of the base CS actor, it's references to any of these classes. Okay? So you can go ahead and make these. Just go ahead and make 2 new variables, plus variable, and then click on it. As its type, you just search for whatever you called your base CS actor. And then grab an object reference for both the first one and the second one. Call them character widget reference P1, character widget reference P2. And then when you drag them onto the screen here, because what we're going to do is we're going to check if they're valid or not. We want to know if they're valid, because if they're not valid, that's fine. That means we can still display the character. It means there hasn't been a character selected for that player yet. But if they are valid, then we want to make sure we destroy the one in place and spawn the new one. Otherwise, we'll have them overlapping, and you'll have like 50 characters if you keep pressing the button that are in the same spot. That'll look bad. So you can bring your variables onto the screen here. You can right-click on them and hit Convert to Validated Get for both of these. And that's what I have in these 2 nodes here, P1 and P2. So if it's player 1, P1, if confirm P1 selection was just set, then we want to make sure that character widget reference P1 is valid. If it is, we're going to destroy the actor and then call a new function called display character choice. I'll get into that function in a second. Feel free to make it now. Just go up to your functions, add a new function, call it display character choice. Otherwise, if P2 just confirmed their selection, get character widget reference P2. If it's valid, destroy the actor and then call display character choice. If it's not valid, you see I still call display character choice, I just don't call destroy actor because this would cause a crash. Okay. Now, display character choice, new function I made, just go ahead, make it, name it like I said, and we're going to also have the player index here because it matters if we're player 1 or player 2. So yet again, go down to your inputs, add a new parameter, type player index, and make it an integer. In your confirm selection where we're calling this, just so you know, player 1 uses a player index of 0, player 2 uses a player index of 1. You can go ahead and change these in the inputs right here. Okay. Now, lastly, we have to determine the display character choice function. Now, it's actually quite simple. It looks like a lot, but it's actually one thing repeated, just changing based on who we choose. So, we do a switch right off the player index. And if it's 0 or default, meaning it doesn't fall into any of these, I make it 0. That way, player 1 gets default. So I feel like it just makes sense. We then do a switch on confirm P1 selection. If it's 0, 1, I don't have a default here, but this can go as many as, however many characters you have, this can continue to go. So if you had 10 characters, this would be 0 through 9, because confirm P1 selection is the index of the button we chose, which is the character we know to spawn. So we're going to do a switch on them. I only have the mannequin and the mutant for now, so those are the only ones I can use the switch on, 0 and 1. But if it's 0, then we spawn the base CS actor, which is our mannequin. If it's 1, we spawn our mutant CS actor, which is our mutant. Then we set our character widget reference to the return value of the actor we spawned. And that's why we have to destroy this, because this needs to be destroyed if we spawn an actor there, because if we don't destroy that actor, then again, it'll stay in the space, and you'll have like 50 actors if you keep confirming different choices. A quick thing to note here is that what we're doing is, for the spawn actor, yes, we're just spawning this class, but we do need the transform. You always need a transform to spawn an actor. So we want to spawn him on the location marker reference that we set. You can go ahead and get the default scene root and grab the transform. You can probably just get the world transform from here. There's nothing wrong with that. I went ahead and grabbed the default scene root just because that's where my tag was. It literally doesn't make a difference. For me, it was easier to think of it that way. So again, go ahead and feel free to do get world transform here. Either way, you have to do one or the other, that or the mesh. I just thought of it as the default scene root since I was already using the default scene root for the tags. But there you go. So and bring that into your spawn transform on your spawn actor. Notice this is location marker P1 for everything in the confirm P1 selection. You can go ahead and copy this whole section and paste it down below. Make sure you change confirmed P1 selection to confirmed P2 selection down here to do this switch. And then also use your location marker P2 instead of location marker P1 like we did up here, so that you spawn them at the right location. And then after you've spawned your actors, either your base CS actor or your mutant CS actor, you should go ahead and set the character widget reference P2 instead of P1. Okay? And there you go. So at this point, we're basically done. There will be another bug, which I'm going to solve right here. But we're basically done. You would have an issue where you could select your characters, and it would probably look pretty good. And when you select a new one, it still gets rid of the old one. So you're like, okay, we're good. But then you'd hit continue, and then if you selected an option on the map, it would actually still reset the character. That's because we aren't destroying the character select screen. And there's a reason. I don't want to destroy the character select screen because you should be able to go back and it should save all your stuff. So whatever characters you were. And with their skin and everything. So I don't want to destroy it and we have to remake it. A simple fix to this is to simply, once we've hit the confirm button, which is the button right here. It's actually the continue button. The continue is the text in there. For me, it's called the confirm button, so don't get confused. This is the continue button. Once we've hit this button, we set our classes and we go about our day. That's perfect. We spawn our level select screen widget and add to viewport. Now, we don't have a way to go back right now, so we won't be able to test that functionality. But what we can do is make a boolean that we check for before we change the actors that are being added to the screen on the character select screen. That way, if the level select screen or the stage select screen is up, they're the same thing. I'm just calling them. I try to call them the same things, but I go to say level select, and in a fighting game, it's really stage select. So I made the boolean is stage select screen up. So if the stage select screen is up, we don't want to be switching the characters around anymore. So we can do it. Just make a boolean, literally make a new variable, call it is stage select screen up, and make it a boolean. Once you've done that, then you can go ahead and, once the level select screen is up or the stage select screen is up, go ahead and set is stage select screen up to true. Then in our confirm, in our confirm selection, let me move this back. In our confirm selection, remember I said we were going to be skipping this? Well, this is where we use it. We no longer want to be changing anything about what player 1 or player 2 is selecting based on, you know, what selection they're on, because now we're on the level select screen, so it doesn't make sense to switch that around. So we don't want to be switching that anymore, and we also don't want to be trying to spawn actors and put them in front of the camera anymore. So in our confirm selection, if the confirm button is pressed, essentially, just go ahead and check if the stage select screen is up. Only perform the logic following it if it is not up, if it is false. Now, again, we don't have a way to go back to our level select screen right now. If we did, then you would just set is stage select screen up back to false, and then this logic would begin working again. And there you go, guys. So now you can actually spawn characters in the scene in front of the camera. I did want to show you one other thing that would look nice. But you can spawn them in front of the scene. They can play animations and actually sit there and switch if you switch between characters. It's no longer valid if you switch between different widgets, so you don't have to worry about wrong data getting passed. What I wanted to show you is you can actually bring these into the scene if you wanted to see what they look like or their sizing and play around with it in front of a camera. That's why I have these guys off to the side. Feel free to delete them if you don't want them or never bring them in to begin with. I just use them for a few seconds, like literally probably 30 seconds each, to kind of get a general placement, because if you click on a camera, it shows you what it looks like. So, okay, the reason it's black right now is because my Sky Sphere blueprint is actually, I have an actor hidden in-game. Now, you don't have to do this, and it'll look like this if you don't, which is actually, it's pretty cool. I think it looks pretty nice. I thought the black background looked a little bit better because we will have an entire background. The character select screen is not just going to be this widget. There's going to be actual stuff going on in the background, right? It's going to look nice and it's going to have its own design. So that's why I hid it in-game. But just to know, if you don't hide it in-game, you can drag something here, like such as this guy. And when you click on your camera, you'll be able to see what it looks like. Whoops, that's the wrong thing. But, so you can see kind of how you can play around with it and get a camera view without actually moving it. But yeah, so I just wanted to show you how to do that. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this episode. If it helps you, please subscribe. It does more for me than anything else you can do for the channel, and I just really appreciate it. If you had any issues with this episode or any of my tutorials, feel free to join the Discord. I can't put an iCard in the top right corner for Discord because YouTube doesn't like it, but you can find it in the description. Basically, if you join, I can help you solve any of the issues you have with pictures and videos too, which is a lot easier a lot of times than just the text comments on YouTube. Lastly, guys, if you want to come support us on Twitch, twitch.tv/Shawnthebro27. We've been playing Dark Souls 2 and Resident Evil 7 lately, which has been a lot of fun. If you guys want to come support us on Patreon, that is up and running now, and I've added a lot of different tiers to it. So I'm just letting you know, there's no obligations. Nothing's going to get locked behind the Patreon that's already existing, but additional things will come about. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'm Shawnthebro, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.